dollar is strong and the markets are volatile and confusing. You, me, and anyone in the market would be looking at this and asking the question, are we breaking downside or are we going to bounce? Now, that's a hard question to answer right now, but when you zoom in, the indicators actually suggest here the RSI is making a divergence. It's making a higher low and a higher high. So the possibility of price breaking this point is high. So that's $30,000. And then closing above that is important, because if you do, then you have room up to this previous supports. So you're going to go towards 34, 35,000. And if that doesn't break, we're going to come to 30 and then bounce most likely. Now, if you go back to that weekly and look at the macro RSI, you are at the support. So the downside there, unless you break this one, is completely less, because historically speaking, after 2020 crash, you entered into this trend where you were trying this trend again and again as a support. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times that's worked. So this is the 6th time. Now we'll have to see if it's bouncing, then yeah, you are going to have this as a resistance. But unless that breaks, you're going to still remain inside the pattern. But the Bitcoin dominance suggests that it's doing a higher high, higher low pattern here, which suggests that Bitcoin is going to run higher and alts may remain slow. But now you, me, and majority of the altcoin investors would like to know whether we are going to get a next wave to the upside, an impulse to the upside. I want to get out of the market and that type of thoughts. But this chart, if you can digest this properly, the information is going to be life-changing. I repeat, it's going to be life-changing if you can really sink this one in. Now, we have seen this once here. That played out. Then again, on a macro scale, that's playing out. Within that macro, this one is correcting right now, showing the same pattern which is happening here. So if something has happened twice, and this is the 3rd time, just showing a possibility till this point that this may be repeating the history. Going against it may be the hardest part. So for us, the XRP holders, we are looking at the XRP. Okay, this is a long way here, March 2020. This is another life-changing stuff for XRP if what I see in the chart is correct. And if you agree with me, that's great. You can put that as a comment in the comment section below. If you don't agree, give me that perspective, why you don't think that's the case. There's a March 2020 crash, that's a corona crash, where you dropped to 66%. Fine, great. Then the market recovered, it went up, but then again another crash from the SEC news. So you dropped down 76%, made 2 dots. Now you are connecting that 2 and extending this one. And right now, you reached that particular point. Now from 3-4 months, we've been talking about these trend lines where we may possibly go. Right now, we touched that range. Now, within this data points, if you are connecting and collecting more information, now you have more things to process and you are like, wow, that's really amazing for me to know. At least for me, that was like, okay, this is the real light at the end of the tunnel. Because I'm looking at this, okay, we just saw all these, but these wicks, this one is like 29%, this one is another 29%, this one is like 27%, this one right now is close to 27%. I'm like, okay, so if it's history repeating, it can't get better than this. Now, I don't know what you think, but look at these wicks and where the price came back and closed. That's sellers pushing the price lower, but buyers entering and absorbing that supply and pushing the sellers back up and closing it there. Followed by which, now we had a candle which was a spinning top here. Then here was an engulfing candle. Both of them are reversal patterns, right? So if you go type in spinning tops, you actually get these. Say it's when it appears at the top of a trend, that's a bearish reversal to the downside. But when that appears to the downside, that's a bullish reversal. Now you'll get a lot of different reversal patterns, but what I'm trying to get through here is these information, which actually is the market presenting this to yourself. So if you know how to read this language, the story is being presented by the market there. It's showing you like, okay, look at these. I'm actually presenting all these information to you. If you may digest that properly, you may actually get that. So now we actually jump into the Bitcoin daily chart. Now this is not an hourly or a, zoomed in view where you're trading. This is a daily one where you're getting this spinning top followed by an engulfing candle, which looks like, okay, I'm watching a lot of different examples. I can go into different markets to see what they have done before. Now it can be stock market, it can be commodities area, and I'm seeing similar patterns playing out. So if this has been there in the history and you get this one, if it's at the top, that's a spinning top, and at the bottom, that's a spinning bottom. And once you get that, make sure if there is a retest, you are entering into it. If not, you're already in the trade. It's fine. Just ride the wave, because we are going higher. In that sense, your top is going to be again. Now, I'm not saying $1 million, $500,000 Bitcoin. I'm saying we're going to go retest that top if that plays out, because on a daily, it definitely shows that it's going to play out. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Now, inside this, we all connected the stock market, right? What it was doing, right? And in different videos, as I've been highlighting, like, okay, the market is showing you a different structure. Say in this video, I was actually highlighting another video where we actually discussed about these patterns, right? So the market is doing that exactly right now. You look at dollar, it's breaking to the upside. We have our targets, we are moving to the upside. Then you look at Apple, it is breaking to the downside. That's strange. Then you look at Tesla. So if you go on Tesla and go on a weekly chart, you kind of see this clearly. We talked about this, saying, okay, this is going to drop like this at this top. And that's happening right now. You're coming all the way down. Now you look at Netflix and people are like, okay, it's dropping. And I'm like, yeah, but we can also observe this one day, right? This is strong trend. It's from 2000s to right now. So like last 20 years, we have followed this pattern where we drop close to 80% and slow down there and then go back up. So if that trend continue, that's actually a huge sign this may slowly grind back up. Right? So that's one stock, a big stock showing that can be at the bottom. But others are still like, I'm not sure whether I'm near the bottom. But for this one, at least it's getting close to the bottom. Because if you are actually a risky trader, you're trying to follow this as close as possible. You get this as a wick here, but then this one is coming close. But if you are like, okay, I'm not that aggressive trader, let me follow the trend using the standard deviation. This is what you get. Now, fine. What about the entire market? You're going to look at the gold. Now, on a macro, gold is super bullish, and anyone who understands economics and monetary policies right now would be huge on gold as a hedge, not as an investment, because that's at least not going to work like the volatility which it has. It's not going to work in that manner. So now you go look at the entire market, the indexes here. You are looking at the S&P 500. Now that's on a monthly, but if you remember last time when we talked about the same on a weekly, we told that it's going to come down to this pattern. Oh, yeah, we actually came down. So now if it doesn't break to the downside, I expect this to go back up. So that will be just a relief rally in the stock markets where you may actually do around 10-12%. But if you don't break to the upside or to the downside, that's still going to remain bad. Why? Because if you actually zoom out, now you can have your argument on this one, because there are different examples in the future, in the past, which actually shows you that it did around the top, but the support held and you got the bounce. So that's back here when the monetary policies were like quantitative easing, where money is being printed, you have the free money. The cost of money was literally nothing. So stock, buybacks, all those stuff, that went crazy. That was easy for the market to actually do that. But right now, if it breaks to the downside, that's going to be worse. You're going to come all the way down to make a support here. Now look at NASDAQ. You're looking at that and you're like, oh my God, we are breaking to the downside. And we talked about the possibility, right? But right now you have that support. Unless you close below this, don't go bearish, because the markets can do a lot of different stuff. It can give you false signal and go the other way, kick you out, because this is a previous support here, a resistance here. So if you are an investor, you're looking like, okay, the market is showing a lot of different stuff, and right now the market dropped 30-40%. Before last time, the corona, we dropped 30% and then we went back up. But the difference is, during that time we were still in a quantitative easing phase, where it was free money, helicopter money, everything coming into the market. But right now the governments are going quantitative tightening. They are sucking the money out of the system. So they are trying to deflate this bubble, which they inflated from last 10 years, 14 years of quantitative easing. So right now, if you are in the market looking at this, you're like, okay, I'm confused. You should be, because that's a lot of stuff to digest. But overall, you're looking for the macro perspective and you're like, okay, Dave, if these are the stuff which I'm looking at, I don't really care about the short-term fluctuation, because payments is becoming so much of importance. You, me, and anyone in the investment arena here right now in this technology, we are looking at this and we are like, okay, that's a ton of utility. Now, when you actually look at this, I'm like, okay, if that's really happening, this does mean utility will ultimately take out all these meme coins and the hype kind of assets in the market. Because the market always does this. It kind of flushes all the waste products and then come back up. Because right now, in last video we talked about how people are buying 77,000 Bitcoin. Now another is actually buying like 7,000 Bitcoin. Close to that, 6.9 to be precise. 6.9 thousand Bitcoin is not a small stuff. If they are buying that, what they really think is that the bottom is in, or the chances for the asset going lower is less, because no one knows for sure, right? We look at the market in a way that, okay, what are the odds? If that's 30% downside and 70% upside, that's a great investment. But if it's the opposite, that's the riskiest one if you're a buyer. Now, as a digital asset investor tweeted this one out, I've talked about this video previously where I couldn't actually find it, but cheers to him, he actually found that and dropped it here. This, if you listen, you actually understand like how the institutions manipulate the market. Now, that's why I was saying like whale-sized manipulation. It really is, because they put out a ton of misinformation out there and the lawsuits, shorting and all, and they go behind the doors and do the opposite. They say this is a bad stuff. They buy that. But they put the shorts and keep the price close as possible so they can buy as much as possible. So when they do all these stuff, look at the macro perspective. Okay, institutions are doing this, but the governments are deregulating or regulating in a way that it's actually easy. Last time, it was 10 years in Germany so that you don't have to pay capital gains tax for crypto. Right now, it's being 1 year. If you hold more than a year, you don't have to pay that. And I'm okay. That's Europe changing. If Germany is going to follow that, you have other countries inside Europe which are going to follow the suit. Great, you already have Portugal. Yeah, I agree. But now it's slowly going in, because the economy is actually sinking and assets like crypto is actually, now it's volatile, but year on year, you're still doing good. And if you consider last 3 years, you're really high. That's not a bad stuff. You have a lot of purchasing power right now compared to your fiat currencies. So now look at this one. This is from Japan. And in Japan, a Japanese bank is actually doing this. So if that asset is blowing off and it's going to zero, no one would be doing this at this time, because it's like you bring in customers, make them buy this, and they are bankrupt. You don't want that to happen. You want them to be there, make money, and then you also make money. That's what banks does. But the amount of money which they make would be much higher, like they do in the fiat system, right? They give you 0.5%, or in my country 6% a year, and then they take your money and invest and do all those stuff and make real money. Even if they make 600%, they're going to give you 6%, right? Max. That's in my country, in India. Now there's another one. Another step towards the adoption. Emirates, one of the greatest, biggest airlines in the world, is actually accepting Bitcoin as a payment. So all of this actually come back to one thing. All of them are accepting this asset class. And right now, the market is showing you a signal that we are slowly bouncing. And in that case, do you think it's going to be a bear market here? Which we have already completed from 2018 to 2020. That's 2 years. And if you look at this rally starting from here, you have to understand that was 2015, late 2015, when you actually started that rally and you went all the way up to 2018. So 2016, 2017, a bit of 2015 was there. And right now, if you look at this one, yes, it's an extended cycle, because if you follow the history of price fluctuation, you actually understand that. 2020, you went to the upside. That's great. 2021, you're consolidating completely. 2022, you're dropping right now, but which is still inside that consolidative pattern. It did not actually break this particular range. You are still inside that one. So if you are looking at this, yes, the price drops heavily, but at a support level, it slows down and then go back up. And when it go back up, first time it was 500%. Second time it was 1000%. Now, I'm not trying to speculate what the next one is going to be, but if it follows this pattern, meaning the downside is increasing each time, but the upside is increasing exponentially, and the time taken to reach there is reducing. Now, that is the greatest part there. Fine. Now, if we put that into perspective, we are going to do a 20x from this bottom, which is not that too huge, but not bad. XRP reaching about 3.5 is great. So if it's going to $8, $7.8, that's great. A lot of people are waiting to take profits near all-time highs and above that. So they will be really happy. And then we come back here, this is like 25%, 27%. The average there is like 28%, and you are like, okay, the market actually give you these kind of wicks at the bottom. Sometimes it actually come back, retest that bottom. So that's an opportunity for those guys who missed. But not all the time the market retests the same bottom. Here it went up, it came lower, but it did not come to this bottom. Again, here it went back up with an engulfing candle, but did not come back to this bottom to retest. So for me, that's a huge opportunity if you are in this market right now and you're observing these stuff. On weekly Bitcoin chart, if you manage to close this about 30,000, 31,000, that's the bullish stuff you really can get. Because right now, here if you observe, that was like 16%, here it's like 18%. If you manage that 15-18% here and remain above the support, that's really bullish. Because when you actually zoom in on that, you actually see this, as we discussed, spinning top combined with positive volume and followed by, now today we're just playing it out, we have to actually see how today is going to close. Because if we manage to actually get this candle close as a bullish one, about $31,000 with positive volume, that's actually super bullish. Because you go back in time to look at when we came into these territories of oversold level in the RSI. One was here, you went back up. So you went from 33,000 all the way up to 48,000. That's $15,000 increase in Bitcoin. And the markets do move higher. They do consolidate. Now, when you get a signal in Bitcoin that you are close to a long-term bottom, now you do have a pattern there. Now, the pattern is clearly following and the price is actually looking good. Because if I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, the RSI is kind of near to 32, which it has been rarely. Once here during a crash, then here during the bear market, again here during the bear market. So this crash, we really had it. Fine, that was a health crisis. But right now, it's the economical crisis. Everything is going down. The stock market, the commodities, everything is kind of giving you that narrative we are about to blow off. Now, there are a lot of different assets which are right now at the top. And with the interest rates going higher, say the housing market and etc. may drop. And this may actually push in a lot of fear. But when you see people buying houses with Bitcoin and crypto assets used even for flight booking, hotel booking and all, wow, that's a lot of adoption right now. 3 years back, 4 years back, they were all talking like this asset class is going to go away. Don't put your money in. It's a Ponzi scheme and all. But right now, you go look at a lot of different assets and you're like, okay, some of these are taking off, right? Some of them corrected heavily. Now, most of them corrected heavily because of the terror which the lunatics brought in, right? Now, when I see all the tweets which that guy did, now a lot of people are digging and throwing all those tweets out. So in the crypto Twitter, I'm watching all of these and I'm like, he was saying like this is really entertaining to see other projects die and saying, I'm going to short your asset to zero, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, maybe he's just immature. He is talented, but maybe he's just immature. Or maybe as a human being, he's not good. Now, we don't know him personally, so we don't know and we shouldn't be judging. But a lot of people lost everything who invested in that one. So that is one of the reasons why we say always look at the team. And I'm repeating this again. In stock market, you can look easily, right? You can look at the net income, you can look at the operating income, you can look at the cash reserves, you can look at a lot of different stuff before you make your opinion. Now, yeah, the general stuff is like PE, that's profit to earnings ratio. You look at the debt, cash, all those stuff and what the company is doing, who are these competitors of that market, what is the barrier of entry into that market. You look at all of those before you deciding. But in crypto, we don't get all those information. From Ripple, we do get some of them, but not all of it, right? Because the protocol is different. There it's a stock. You're buying a stock means buying a part of a company. Here, I'm buying XRP doesn't mean I'm buying anything from Ripple, right? It's entirely different. So this is about protocol. This is about the technology, the adoption. Then the leaders who are coming in. So that's the brain power. So you look at a lot of different stuff before you invest in. And if that's the leader of that asset, I don't really want to be in that asset. Now, that's just me in my opinion. Because I think the leader, now that's something I listened online during a speech from, I think, Dr. Miles Monroe or Les Brown, where they were actually saying, a herd of sheep led by a lion is gonna go about or crush the herd of lion led by a sheep. Now, I do believe that's true in life because leadership is huge. And if you see these, that's a red flag for me. Guys, if you are receiving value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want these kind of updates on the spot, so you need to understand, okay, this is the bottom. One of the stuff is like this, you are going to the downside and you literally get that, okay, we are going downside, but there is a possibility that this is a long-term base for this particular asset, because you're even on a weekly, you don't get to see that clearly unless you go on a monthly and log scale, right? So whenever I see all of these, I actually come here and post this. Recently, with the market being volatile, I'm trying to give as much as information as possible so that you know what assets are good, you know what assets are bad, you know what nodes are right now slowing down and then going back up from the bottom. That's actually a good sign for the market. So if you want that, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So guys, I'll actually meet you in the next video. Bye for now.